The air inside the courtroom was so thick with anticipation it could have been cut with a knife. Reporters filled every available bench, scribbling notes with feverish intensity. Legal analysts whispered to one another, exchanging theories like trading cards. On the far end, marble columns glistened under the harsh white light, framing the raised platform where Judge Aileen Cannon sat, poised, calm, yet radiating an authority that could silence a crowd with just a look. Today's hearing wasn't routine. It had drawn eyes from Washington to New York, and for one reason only. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, known for her razor-sharp wit and fiery tongue, Crockett had made a name for herself as someone unafraid to confront hypocrisy, whether in Congress, on live television, or behind closed doors. But facing a federal judge, that was new territory, even for her. When she entered the courtroom, heads turned. She walked with the kind of confidence that didn't need to announce itself. Dressed in a dark navy suit, her curls perfectly in place, her gaze was steady and unflinching. Every click of her heels across the marble floor echoed like a drumbeat of defiance. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, please take the stand, the clerk announced. She approached, swore in, and sat down. Her eyes darted briefly toward Judge Cannon, a woman known for her strict courtroom demeanor and refusal to let chaos overshadow procedure. Two powerful women, both with unshakable conviction, now faced each other across a gulf of law and politics. The prosecutor, a tall man in a gray suit, adjusted his tie before beginning. Congresswoman, can you confirm that you attended the private meeting held on March 3, concerning the potential influence over judicial appointments? I can confirm that I attended a meeting, Crockett replied calmly. But let's be clear, it wasn't private. It was strategically hidden. The room murmured softly. Cannon's gavel taped once. The witness will refrain from commentary. Please answer the question directly. Yes, Your Honor, Crockett replied, her voice smooth but firm. I attended. The prosecutor smiled faintly, thinking he could corner her. And during that meeting, did you or anyone else suggest that federal judges were being chosen based on political loyalty rather than merit? Crockett leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing. You mean, did anyone say out loud what everyone already knows is happening? A ripple of shock spread through the courtroom. Someone in the back audibly gasped. Judge Cannon's eyes flicked upward. Congresswoman Crockett, this is not a political rally. You will answer in a manner appropriate for the record. With all due respect, Your Honor, Crockett said, her tone steady but cutting. Truth doesn't always sound appropriate. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. The silence that followed was suffocating. Cannon's gaze sharpened. You're walking a fine line, Congresswoman. I'm aware, Crockett said coolly. It's just that fine lines are where justice usually hides. The prosecutor cleared his throat, trying to regain control. Congresswoman, are you alleging corruption within the judicial appointment process? Crockett met his stare. I'm not alleging, Counselor. I'm confirming. The entire courtroom seemed to inhale at once. Even Cannon paused, her expression unreadable. That is a serious accusation, the judge said carefully. I'm aware, Your Honor, Crockett replied. But so is allowing people to pretend the system isn't being bent by those in power. The prosecutor shifted uncomfortably. Do you have evidence to support that claim? Crockett's lips curved slightly. If I didn't, I wouldn't be sitting here risking my career. Now would I? For a fleeting moment, Cannon's expression softened, a curiosity flickering behind her stern eyes. Then she straightened, her tone cool and formal once more. The court reminds the witness that accusations must be substantiated. Emotion has no place in this chamber. Crockett tilted her head. Emotion? Your Honor, this isn't emotion, it's exhaustion. We're tired of watching justice become selective. Gasps filled the room again. Reporters were scribbling like mad now, hands flying over notepads. Judge Cannon leaned forward, her voice dropping into a quieter, more dangerous register. You will not lecture this court, Congresswoman. If you continue this tone, I will hold you in contempt. Crockett's jaw tightened. For a moment, she looked down, gathering herself, then looked back up with renewed fire. Your Honor, she said softly but firmly, if speaking the truth is contempt, then I'll wear that label proudly. A collective gasp echoed through the courtroom. Someone whispered, she did not just say that. Cannon's gavel came down hard. Order. The sound cracked through the air like thunder. Even the reporters froze mid-sentence. Congresswoman Crockett, Cannon said coldly. "You will retract that statement immediately." But Crockett didn't flinch. She looked straight into the judge's eyes and said, "No, Your Honor, I won't." The silence was deafening. In that moment, the two women became symbols: Cannon of the institution that demanded order and discipline, Crockett of the voice that demanded disruption for the sake of truth. Their confrontation wasn't just about procedure anymore, it was about what justice meant. Judge Cannon took a deep breath. "You are not above the law, Congresswoman, and neither is anyone else, Your Honor," Crockett shot back, her voice now resonating across the room. "But you and I both know that isn't always how things work in this country." Cannon's expression hardened. "You are dangerously close to being removed from this courtroom." "Then remove me," Crockett challenged. "But that won't silence what people have already heard today." The gallery erupted again. A mix of outrage and admiration filled the air. The gavel slammed once more, a boom, 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 echoing like cannon fire. "I said order." Judge Cannon's voice rang out. The murmurs faded, replaced by the sound of someone's pen clattering to the floor. Crockett sat perfectly still, breathing evenly, her eyes locked on the judge's. Cannon looked at her long and hard, as if deciding between punishment and something else, perhaps understanding. Finally, she said quietly, "This court will take a 10-minute recess." She rose and exited the bench, robe flowing behind her like a shadow. The crowd immediately burst into chaotic whispers. Jasmine exhaled slowly, her pulse still racing. Her aide leaned in. "Congresswoman, you might have just ended your career." Jasmine smiled faintly. "Or maybe I just started doing what I was elected to do." From the corner of the room, a few journalists exchanged knowing glances. They could sense that a history was unfolding before them. As the recess bell rang, Jasmine stayed seated, her mind replaying every word. She hadn't come to attack Judge Cannon. She respected her, but the system needed a jolt, and if she had to be the spark, so be it. What she didn't expect, however, was what would happen when Cannon returned. Because the judge, behind those composed eyes, wasn't angry, she was moved. And when the gavel struck again after recess, the courtroom would learn that Judge Aileen Cannon wasn't just a guardian of the law, she was about to become an unexpected ally in the fight for truth. The storm wasn't over, it was only just beginning. The next day dawned gray and heavy, as if even the sky understood that something monumental was about to happen. Outside the federal courthouse, cameras lined the steps in endless rows. Reporters shouted into microphones while producers barked updates through headsets. News takers across every major network flashed the same headline: Judge Aileen Cannon vs. Jasmine Crockett, a courtroom confrontation ignites national firestorm. Inside, the courtroom hummed with a different kind of energy. The same marble floor that had echoed Jasmine Crockett's confident steps the day before now carried the weight of expectation. Every reporter, aide, and lawyer in the room knew today's hearing could change the direction of the entire case, maybe even shake the justice system itself. When Judge Aileen Cannon entered, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Her black robe swept around her like a storm cloud, but her expression was unreadable. She sat, glanced over her notes, and gave the single nod to the clerk. "Court is now in session." Jasmine Crockett was already seated at the witness table. Her posture was upright, her face composed, but her eyes sharp, unflinching. Carried the same fire from the day before. She'd received countless messages overnight. Some hailed her as a hero, others warned her she had gone too far. But Crockett wasn't here to win favor, she was here to tell the truth, no matter the cost. Judge Cannon cleared her throat. "Before we resume testimony, this court wishes to address the events of yesterday." A hush fell over the room. Even the air seemed to stop moving. "Congresswoman Crockett," Cannon began, "your conduct in this courtroom was, by all procedural standards, inappropriate. You disregarded multiple warnings and engaged in rhetoric unbecoming of the setting." Reporters leaned forward, pens hovering over notepads. This was a to reprimand, maybe even contempt charges. But then Cannon continued, her tone changing slightly. "However," she said, pausing for emphasis, "the court has reviewed your statements and the evidence provided thus far, and it appears a broken bar. Some of your concerns merit further investigation." The silence that followed was pure electricity. Crockett blinked. "Are you saying, Your Honor, that you're reopening the inquiry?" "I'm saying," Cannon replied that this court is not in the business of silencing truth, no matter how inconvenient it may be. I will authorize subpoenas for additional communications related to judicial appointments. Gasps rippled through the gallery. A few people even clapped before Cannon's gavel came down sharply. Order. There will be no applause in my courtroom. Still, the message was clear. Judge Cannon wasn't defending the system blindly. She was ready to test it, challenge it, and if necessary, expose its flaws. Jasmine felt something unexpected rise in her chest, a respect, not just for the judge's authority, but for her courage. Thank you, Your Honor, she said quietly. That's all anyone ever wanted, for the truth to get a fair hearing. Cannon gave a curt nod. Fairness is what this court was built for. Let's proceed. The prosecutor looked uneasy, as if the ground had just shifted beneath him. Your Honor, I must object. These new lines of inquiry are outside the original scope. Overruled, Cannon interrupted firmly. Justice doesn't hide behind scope. It was a subtle rebuke, but one that sent a clear signal. The courtroom wasn't just a place of law today, it had become an arena of accountability. Over the next 2 hours, new evidence was presented. Internal memos surfaced showing backdoor communications between political operatives and judicial staffers. One email, read aloud in the courtroom, directly referenced selective case allocation for political convenience. Every sentence landed like a thunderclap. The audience sat frozen, absorbing the magnitude of what they were hearing. Judge Cannon's face remained impassive, but her eyes told another story, a silent fury simmering beneath her calm exterior. She'd spent years defending the integrity of the bench, and now, before her, lay proof that others had tried to tarnish it. When the final document was read, Cannon leaned forward. Congresswoman Crockett, she said, it appears your claims were not unfounded. I trust you understand the gravity of what this means. Jasmine nodded slowly. I do, Your Honor. It means we've got a lot of cleaning up to do. A faint, almost imperceptible smile tugged at the corner of Cannon's lips. Indeed, but just as the tension began to ease, the courtroom doors burst open. A court-martial hurried forward, whispering something urgently into the clerk's ear. Cannon frowned. Speak. The clerk stood, holding a sealed folder. Your Honor, we've just received classified documents from the Department of Justice, directly relevant to this case. The audience gasped again. Cannon gestured for the clerk to bring them forward. She opened the folder and scanned the pages quickly. Her face darkened. These documents reference political interference at the highest levels, she said grimly, including attempts to pressure judges on specific rulings. The room exploded in noise. Reporters scrambled to relay updates. Phones buzzed. The gavel struck again and again. Order. Cannon thundered. I will not tolerate chaos. When silence finally returned, she exhaled slowly. This court will recess for 1 hour while I review these materials. When we reconvene, I will deliver a statement. She rose and began to step down from the bench, but then paused. Turning toward Jasmine, she said clearly, Congresswoman Crockett, yesterday I warned you about contempt of court. Today a broken bar. I commend your courage. Every person in the courtroom froze. Cannon continued, her voice steady but filled with weight. It takes audacity to challenge a system from within, but it takes integrity to back that challenge with proof. You've given this court both. Jasmine, momentarily speechless, simply nodded. Thank you, Your Honor. I just did what I thought was right. The judge's eyes softened, and sometimes, that's the hardest thing to do. With that, she left the bench. The moment she disappeared into her chambers, the room erupted in whispers. A senior reporter turned to another. This isn't just a hearing anymore, he said, half in awe. This is history. Jasmine sat quietly, letting the noise wash over her. She thought of the long nights, the backlash, the ridicule, all the moments when telling the truth had seemed like a losing battle. Yet here she was, sitting in a courtroom where the system itself had begun to listen. After an hour, Cannon returned, holding the Dodge documents. Her face was firm, determined. The gavel came down once. This court has reviewed the new evidence, she began. The findings are disturbing and undeniable. Therefore, I am ordering an independent investigation into all judicial appointments and case allocations related to this matter. No one, and I repeat, no one, is above scrutiny. Gasps turned into applause this time, and even the gavel couldn't silence it fully. Cannon allowed herself the rare, brief smile. As she prepared to adjourn, she looked once more at Jasmine Crockett. "Congresswoman, it seems you were right. Hey, sometimes truth needs a voice loud enough to shake the walls." Jasmine rose, standing tall. "And sometimes, Your Honor, justice just needs someone brave enough to listen." Cannon nodded once, a gesture that spoke volumes. Two women, once on opposite sides of a tense divide, they had found common ground in something larger than both of them. "Court adjourned," Cannon said. The gavel struck one final time. As reporters rushed toward the exits, Jasmine stood still for a moment, staring at the seal of the court carved into the wall behind the bench. It gleamed under the courtroom lights, a symbol of justice she had always believed in, even when it seemed unreachable. Now, maybe, it didn't feel so far away. Outside, flashbulbs exploded as she stepped into the sunlight. Reporters shouted her name. Microphones thrust forward. "Congresswoman Crockett, did you expect Judge Cannon to side with you?" She smiled faintly, the wind tugging at her hair. "I didn't come here looking for sides," she said. "I came looking for truth, and told they a broken bar. I think we all found some." Behind her, inside that quiet, echoing courtroom, Judge Cannon sat alone for a moment before removing her robe. Her reflection in the polished bench stared back, a solemn, resolute. She whispered to herself, "Maybe justice isn't just about silence and order. Maybe it's about courage, too." And for the first time in years, Judge Aileen Cannon allowed herself a small, genuine smile. The battle for truth had begun with defiance. What attended just for today with understanding.